All right, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're live and we're late. It's a nice late edition of A Flawed Man of God. I'm your host, Stuart Davis. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. um, I'm not a pastor, not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about the Bible, talk about Christianity, talk about a wide variety of Christian topics, issues, current events, and give you my perspective on them. One that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. I've been a Christian all my life, 40 years, non denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the word daily trying to do it my best. So, if you are somebody who is interested in learning more about Christianity, maybe coming to the Lord, learning more about Jesus, maybe there's just a voice at the back of your mind wondering if there's more to your existence than just your life here on earth, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. And hopefully, I can provide you with some insight, some influence, and some perspective on what it's like to be a Christian. We're not any different from anybody else, except for the fact that we do have faith in Lord. We put our beliefs in Him, in Scripture, in the Bible, and believe those basic fundamentals um, that told us about, and is led by example through Christ. So, please, by all means, stick with us as we talk about a many different things, but mostly what we do here is read through the Bible. At least that's the part that we're working through right now. We are, say, halfway through the Old Testament, maybe. Eh, Around middle through the Old Testament, and have more guests on in the coming months, and talk about some other things. Maybe Friday stream may be discussing what was said at the podium with our armed forces and how it had to relate to abortion. That might be something I talk about on Friday for our off topic Fridays. And if you are already a Christian and you just like Christian topics and discussions, welcome as well. Glad to have you here. We run this very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school, very relaxed, casual, um, comfortable environment where we all can come on and give our perspective on things, whether you are a believer or just somebody who is interested in learning more. Doesn't matter. I highly encourage you to take part in the chat. We have a bunch of regulars we've got a good group in here tonight. Not that we ever have a bad group. We have a good group in here tonight. And they come in and night out and add so much more to this show than what it would be if it was just me rambling on by myself. I am very dehydrated right now. So please take part of the chat. But if not, that's fine too. You can just listen along. But like I said, your questions, your comments, your thoughts are encouraged. And if you want, leave a comment on the stream if you can't catch it live, or if you just want to write something down, just leave a comment. But please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy what content that you get on this channel. Like the episode, subscribe to the channel, and not interested in any contributions monetarily, but what I would love for you to contribute, if you think it's worthy, is some good advertising by recommending this show to other people, whether it be other folks on the internet or other folks in your life that you think might benefit from this or be interested in it. And with that said, folks, whew, one game playoff night in softball. We lost. We had one bad inning. Other than that, we had two shutout innings and two innings where we only allowed a couple of runs, but one bad inning where it just all came apart. And it was the first inning, so it sent second inning, sorry. Just set things apart. But that's why I'm here. That's why I'm in my jersey. And yeah. So figured I'd come back and talk about the good book with you guys and just show off stickers here. This is something I did for the for one of our Sunday schools. You've heard me talk about it before. We've lost a few people in the last year and a half, more like year and a half now. Uh, Three members of the same Sunday school all died, and that all it hurt. It was all very connected, very well loved and well respected members of that Sunday school and of the church community. So two of them were players on our softball team at some point. They weren't playing when I got there, but back when the church was younger and they were younger, they played a lot, and that's Wayne Kirby up here, Ginny Baltaser right here, and Charles Whitlock down here, and that is the Challengers. That's what they call their Sunday school, the Challengers group. Great, awesome group, great group of folks that you can sit around and watch, and they are very comfortable giving their opinions to people. And I don't say that in a bad way at all. This is a very well there is a lot of very good discussion, a lot of heartfelt takes on scripture and the Bible and Christianity in general when you walk into it. It's a very large, a very large Sunday school, and they are um, they are just great to be around. If my Sunday school is, if like because we're at that age where a lot of us are volunteering, a lot of us are doing things with kids, or it's not uncommon for our Sunday school to have maybe one or two people, and so we just kind of scatter a little bit that day. I will go there and participate with them. They have asked me to come there and teach their Sunday school before. They are a great group of folks, and I love them to death. They mean the world to me, and I will be meeting with a couple of them on Thursday. There will not be a Thursday stream, so tomorrow stream, Friday stream, Thursday stream. Nope. No start Thursday stream. So just letting you guys know. I reached out to Keith Foskey with the Conversations with a Calvinist channel. And we are going to set something up hopefully for August. It's going to be a live stream around 8:30, and we will operate around his schedule and how long he wants to do that. But he's a very funny guy. I'm going to have him talking about Calvinism and giving that perspective. He seems to have a very country approach to things, and I think that'll be. I think that'll reflect well, and I think he represents Calvinism very well, and so I think that's to give that doctrine a fair shake in front of the audience. Him and the other Paul are the two guys I'm going to go to kind of discuss things, and we might talk a little bit about humor as well, because if you look through the archives, there's about a 3-hour stream I did with Hans Feeney, who you may have heard me mention before in the past. Lutheran pastor, hilarious channel of Lutheran satire, but we talked a little bit about humor. It was the whole topic was supposed to be the topic of the show, but we just talked about so many other things. We didn't hit on it as much as I'd like to. But I highly recommend that interview, because he's just got a lot of great things to say. And it's good hearing that from a pastor who's not afraid to comment on social issues, where many pastors today are terrified of that. And that is not good. A pastor should be, a pastor can be meek. That's fine. But a pastor, while meek, should be fearless when it comes to the commandments and the expectations of the Lord, full of grace, but also unafraid to say what the truth is all about, and unafraid of who's going to be upset by it. Christ wasn't. We'll find more of that when we get into the Gospels in our reading. But Jesus, when he's giving his lessons, he doesn't shy away from what is good or bad. He tells it to you like it is, but he also shows you the power behind grace and what it can do. So with that said, That's 10 minutes intro. How's it going, everybody? Glad to see you guys here. Alias. Now you're gonna stream. Alias is first. Nico coming in second. Finally missed yesterday and thought I was gonna miss today too. Well, I gave you some extra time. MR's in the chat. MR, I hope everything's going well with you, sir. Emmanuel Osorio. Hello, everyone. I'm gonna come in and out listening because of the signal I have, but should be fun. Hopefully. It's not gonna be. I don't think it's going to get too in depth today, but we don't know once we really dig into scripture tonight. I think Ezra's kind of bland. I think Nehemiah is really going to be where we're getting more of this, what's going on here, other than just kind of the nuts and bolts of things. Nehemiah seems like there's more, from what I've read in the past, much more narrative driven than it. This is just more of a cut and dry explanation. Though the letters have been great. The letters have been great to read. MR, I'm a lawyer now for real, so that's good. Thanks for asking. Congratulations, MR. Again, I know you'd mentioned you'd passed the bar. Excellent. I know that's been something you've been working on. So let's hear it for MR. Big round of applause for him, sir. Now you have to work on. Now that you're a lawyer, you have to work extra hard, like impossibly hard, to save your soul, since you've now sold it. But good for you. We need lawyers with a moral compass, with a conscience, because I think that's something that our justice system needs. Not talking about I'm talking mostly about ambulance chasers, folks who will bend the truth or outright lie in order to win things, to win a case, as opposed to, look, I'm an honest arbiter of justice. I am going to argue this case fairly and by the facts, right? And maybe I'm going to advocate, and maybe I'll show my side in a positive light, obviously. But folks who will do underhanded things on both sides, prosecutor, plaintiffs, defendants, whatever, doesn't matter. We need honest people in the job, and I think folks like you, MR, you have good people to look up to. With Nick, with a friend of the show, a friend of me and Nick's, Raph, who's been on this show before, who is a lawyer as well. It's good times. All right, what's going on? RIP to your boys. Sorry to hear. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see. His wife, Charles Whitlock's wife, Peggy, was at the game tonight, but her son, who is a very, very close friend of mine, plays on the team with us as well. And she's got a jersey, she's got a patch, and so she wore that and watched that with her grandkids, her daughter-in-law, and got to watch her son play. And I think her nephew was there too, so on the other team. So that was pretty cool. Tell them to watch the show. They're boomers. They'll watch it or not. I'm not worried about it. 10-minute intro. You need to show Nick Rekieta how to do short intros. Actually, the reason I take as much time as I do, Sean, is because I caught that from one time. He goes, I give people time to file into the show and talk about things. The beginning is a good time to do the housekeeping and say hi to everybody, high fives. And I think when I heard that, I realized it was more natural when you have Sunday school. And if any of you guys have been to a Sunday school or a small group, you understand, you don't just sit, everybody doesn't just go sit down and, all right, let's get into things. It's very much, hey, how's it going? How's the family? How's things at work? Whatever. And I know we're not getting that personal in here. I don't mind doing that. But, I think it's a more natural thing. Like I said, I want this to be comfortable. I want this to be relaxed. And sometimes that means, hey, how's it going? The handshakes, the high fives, the smiles, that kind of stuff. The stuff that kind of engenders camaraderie. And so I took that, and I know he's got a ridiculously I know he's got a ridiculously huge community, so he's probably going to have more to talk about. But at the same time, it's like he streams so late. Who's just filing in? You'd feel like everybody's just waiting at that point. But who knows? Who knows? He does a good job. I love my friend. He does like he inspired me to put this channel together. He's given me shout outs before in the past. He's been on this show, so I'm very thankful. And like I can tell you, I've hung out with him before, been a friend of him before before he started streaming. He is very much the same guy on camera as he is off of it. He's just a guy. He's just a guy just walking around with opinions and the confidence to talk about it, which is something that we should all sometimes we should take in small doses or not, depending on how outspoken we are already. Remember, I like this. Remember, don't mistake meekness for weakness. That's right. Meek is not weak. A lot of people who act weak think that they're being meek, and a lot of people who are meek are oftentimes perceived as weak. It's not that. To me, meekness is a lot of times the well-intentioned, good person who doesn't want to be confrontational when they don't have to be. They're oftentimes very good-natured, easygoing people that just want folks to get along. They enjoy peace. They enjoy that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean that if backed in a corner or put up or confronted with something that's wrong, that they're not going to do something about it. That doesn't mean there's no action involved. And that's something to be that's something that Jesus talks about in the Beatitudes. Blessed are the meek. What you doing about, cat? Ron in the background. All right. Haven't watched Nick in 2 months because I was scared waiting to get in and I couldn't think about it. I should watch tonight. I hadn't watched in about a month and a half. I've been taking a break off, just streaming and streaming TV shows and audiobooks and other things. But I got back on it. So me going to the Nashville show is now in question because I have obligations that are popping up very close to that date, so I may not be able to make it. So if any of you guys are coming to the Nashville show, I may not be there like I originally planned and told you guys. So I'm sorry if I have to back out on that. But again, other things that are more important than the trip to Tennessee are popping up. So we'll see. People don't want to sit and start right off. Well, maybe the Calvinists do. Nick has revamped his show a tiny bit that last couple weeks. I think he just needs. And who am I? And I'm a nobody. Like I don't run the successful channel like he does. I miss the court shows. I miss the court streams. But I understand that puts an incredible amount of strain on his show. I'll get to that in a second, Veritex. Took an incredible amount of strain on his family life because he streams at night, and then if he's streaming during the day, it'll wear you out. Streaming takes a lot more out of you than you think. But a lot of especially if I've got a guest on afterwards, I need some time to wind down after it because my show, even though it's bedtime for me, normally when I have a guest on, because it's usually midnight, close to midnight, when I finish and wrap up, I need like a half hour just to unwind. And so I get it when things are moving. I miss those, but oh yeah, he's doing oh crap. It's the lady who decapitated her lover. And she's Shabiznes, Taylor Shabiznes or something like that. Shabiznes, I remember the name. Shabiznes is the name I remember. But I think if he keeps it, if he's diligent and disciplined about keeping it to around a 3-hour show, it doesn't I don't think it takes as much out of him, because a lot of times he can go because he's got a lot. There's just a lot of things going on, and he's having fun. That 3-hour show can turn into a 6-hour show before you know it. And while that's fun there, you've got to get you've got to live afterwards. So that's going to be a 2-day case, I imagine. It's going to be a very interesting read. Veritex, not sure who Nick is. Like MR said, that's Rekieta Law. That's Nick Rekieta. He is a guy that me and him became friends following Dick Masterson, who is a online personality, online comedian who is, I find, funny sometimes. Sometimes I don't, but he has got a what started off as a very legal channel, hence the Rekieta Law, and is now turned into a much more multifaceted topic show. But he does things. He live streamed the Kyle Rittenhouse case. He's live streamed the Darrell Brooks case, and he's live. No, that's not the guy who was in Korea, but the guy who was in Korea, Legal Vices. He's on Nick's show a lot when he's streaming court cases. Yeah, he's okay sometimes. I don't like all of some. Dick Masterson is a difficult person to really get into too much if you're like, he's good in some. It's like a lot of people. You might agree with them a lot on some things. You might disagree with them a lot on a lot of things. So Legal Vices is great, and here's the other guy, Andrew, not Andrew Branca, but the other one, who's also, there's two in Korea. Legal Mindset. These shows are everywhere now. I remember when I only knew about Viva. Yeah. Nick got a good following. And that, in fact, you watch Blaine's Escape Corner Veritex. Nick was covering the crap, what's his name? Who's the guy? Vic Mignogna. He was covering the Vic Mignogna case big time. And he is, and through it, became very good friends with Vic. And that's he's, like I said, he blew up. He really blew up from covering the Kyle Rittenhouse case. He live streamed that whole case. He really brought a lot of. He kind of made that kind of a niche, popular thing to do with live streaming. Live streaming these high visibility court cases, and he did a great job covering the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. He did a couple of other ones. It's just an interesting one, especially if you're somebody like me who's sitting at work, doing, pounding out an email or a spreadsheet or something, doing some analysis on something, and then you're listening to something in the background. You're listening to him react to this case with guests that he has on. It's a very fun. To me, it's very fun, kind of very casual listening to. And then his night show is very much more about different topics. So it's good. It's an easy thing to get in and get out of. But like I said, I think if he's diligent and disciplined about sticking to like a 3-hour show, keeping that format, I think that's just easier on the amount of energy he has, because it's much more draining than you think. Anyway, all right. With that said, welcome to the show, Veritex, as well. No, not Matt Walsh. I don't like Matt Walsh. Not a big fan. Actually, very, very educational. I agree, Sean. I like it. I've learned much more, and I've changed my perspective about a lot of things just listening to him. Where normally, if me and Nick were chatting about that, we just argue about things. But actually listening to him listen and respond to things, and the way he would read through court case documents and stuff like that is kind of where I got the let's read kind of another inspiration for how I got through this. Let's read through the Bible and react to it and talk about it, which is what we're getting ready to do right now. So when we last popped off, they'd finished rebuilding the temple. And that was much to the chagrin of the enemies of the Hebrews, who tried to narc them out by saying, "Hey, didn't Cyrus tell you to stop production? Let's talk to the new king and say, hey, why are these guys doing this thing?" Darius, the new king of Babylon, told them in no uncertain terms to kiss off. And not only that, not only are you not going to mess with them, you're also going to help fund their endeavor, fund their project, and provide sacrifices. And so there was much rejoicing. Yay, to the Monty Python fans. There was much rejoicing. And there was observation of the Passover feast and starting to do things that God had told them about, as was written in the book of Moses. And so now they've completed the temple. So Jerusalem is coming together, and now we are ready to receive more of the Hebrews coming back to their promised land after a two to three generation exile from there. And that's where we'll pick up in Ezra chapter 7. The coming and work of Ezra. Don't take that the wrong way, you perverts. Now, after this, in the reign of Artaxerxes, king of Persia, Ezra, the son of Sariah, son of Azariah, son of Hilkiah, son of Shallum, son of Zadok, son of Ahitub, son of Amariah, son of Azariah, son of Merioth, son of Zeraliah, son of Uzi, son of Buki, son of Abishua, son of Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the chief. Oh, snap. Okay. First off, irritated they put me through the begats again with the son of the son of a son of a son of a son of a sailor. But here we go. Here's some good ones to look here. Ezra is a direct descendant of Aaron, Moses' brother, the chief priest. He's also a son of Phinehas, one of my favorite people in the Exodus. I think we've talked about this before, but it's always worth going back to. Where is... Hold on. Almost. Herb. Herb was his brother's name. Okay, here we go. So they start worse because the Israelites, even before the promised land, just doing continuously stupid things. While Israel dwelt with Shittim, the people began to play the harlot with the daughters of Moab. They were fraternizing. These invited the people to the sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods because they couldn't help it for some reason. The Lord said to Moses, "Take all the chiefs of the people and hang them in the sun before the Lord, that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel." And Moses said to the judges of Israel, "Every one of you slay his men who have yoked themselves to Baal of Peor." And behold, one of the people of Israel came and brought a Midianite woman to his family in the sight of Moses and in the sight of the whole congregation of the people. And while they were weeping at the door of the tent of meeting, when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose and left the congregation and took a spear in his hand and went after the man of Israel into the inner room and pierced both of them, the man of Israel and the woman, through her body. Thus the plague was stayed from the people of Israel. And the Lord said to Moses, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath from the people of Israel, that he was jealous with my jealousy among them, so that I did not consume the people of Israel in my jealousy. This reads a little bit different because of the English Standard Version. We're going to go back to the NIV for a little while. I feel like sometimes it's talking over my head. So they're talking about how bad this thing is. And right in the middle of them discussing what's going on, this Israelite man, who I think was a chieftain or somebody of some importance, brings this woman in, and they begin to copulate in the tent. And Phinehas is like, okay, you want to do that? Shish kebab. Heretic shish kebab. And so that happened. Look, guys, Ezra's coming from that line. So you've got big shoes to fill. This Ezra came up from Babylon. So this is the Ezra. This is the guy that the book is named after. He was a teacher, well versed in the law of Moses, which the Lord, the God of Israel, had given. It's a good guy to have if you're going to be doing this. If undertaking this task, you want somebody who knows what God has told us to do and knows what he wants. The king had granted him everything he asked, for the hand of the Lord his God was on him. Some of the Israelites, including priests, Levites, musicians, gatekeepers, and temple servants, also came up to Jerusalem in the 27th year of King Artaxerxes. Veritex says, the arrival of Ezra likes to make a big entrance. Hophni and Phinehas, two sons of Eli. That's a different one. I think that's the one in Samuel. That's a different Phinehas. John Smoth. Wait, what's going on, John? Haven't seen you in a while. At one time at youth group, a couple were making out in a closet. So me and my friends opened the door and hosed them down with a fire extinguisher. Yes. Lucky we didn't have any sharp objects. You whores. That is a great moment. Fire extinguisher. Gosh, that's dirty. Hopefully a bunch of people's clothes. It wasn't like a clothes closet. Hopefully it was just an equipment closet. Ezra arrived in Jerusalem in the 5th month of the 7th year of the king. He had begun his journey from Babylon on the 1st day of the 1st month, and he arrived in Jerusalem on the 1st day of the 5th month, for the gracious hand of the Lord was on him. For Ezra had devoted himself to the study and observance of the law of the Lord and to teaching its decrees and laws of Israel. This is a copy of the letter King Artaxerxes had given Ezra the priest, a teacher of the law, a man learned in the matters concerning the king, commands and decrees of the Lord for Israel. So Artaxerxes, the way I kind of understand this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nath, if you're still listening. Darius is king of Babylon, but he's still under the orders of Artaxerxes of Persia, right? So Persia's the overall empire. Babylon exists within that. So Artaxerxes is like the big guy. So he's a little like that wall builder guy. Barton? You mean Nehemiah? Gonna build that wall. The Rogel Dorn. Ezra's the Rogel Dorn of the Bible. Or maybe you could say Rogel Dorn is the Ezra of Warhammer 40K. I've got a figurine. My buddy bought me a figurine. It was a storage closet. Thankfully, no one was injured. Lol. Thankfully. Hey, a little bit of pain is a good listen sometimes. Artaxerxes, king of kings, to Ezra, the priest, teacher of the law of the God of heaven. Artaxerxes sounds a little based. Greetings. Now I decree that any of the Israelites in my kingdom, including priests and Levites who volunteer to go to Jerusalem with you, may go. You are sent by the king and his 7 advisors to inquire about Judah and Jerusalem with regard to the law of your God, which is in your hand. Moreover, you are to take with you the silver and gold that the king and his advisors have freely given to the God of Israel, whose dwelling is in Jerusalem, together with all the silver and gold you may obtain from the province of Babylon, as well as the free will offerings of the people and the priests for the temple of their God in Jerusalem. With this money, be sure to buy bulls, rams, and male lambs together with their grain offerings and drink offerings and sacrifice them on the altar of the temple of your God in Jerusalem. You and your fellow Israelites may then do whatever seems best with the rest of the silver and gold, in accordance with the will of your God. Deliver to the God of Jerusalem all the articles entrusted to you for worship in the temple of your God, and anything else needed for the temple of your God that you are responsible to supply, you may provide from the royal treasury. Oh, snap! He got the king's black card. Now I, King Artaxerxes, decree that all the treasurers of the Trans-Euphrates are to provide with diligence whatever Ezra the priest, the teacher of the law of the God of heaven, may ask of you, up to 100 talents of silver and 100 cores of wheat, 100 baths of wine, 100 baths of olive oil, and salt without limit. Put this into perspective because we're talking about talents and baths. We're not used to that unit of measure. 100 talents is 3.75 tons of silver. A core, 100 cores of wheat would probably be about 18 tons, 16 metric tons, but we don't talk about the metrics here because we're Americans. 100 baths of wine, 100 gallons of wine is about 600 gallons. And same with olive oil. It's a lot more olive oil. Well, I don't know. Maybe they use it a lot more than we do today. And salt without limit. All the salt. Oh, there's plenty of salt. Look, there's lots of salt to be mined from the enemies because there's a lot of crying going on. There's a lot of hurt feelings. Whatever the God of heaven has prescribed, let it be done with diligence for the temple of the God of heaven. Why should his wrath fall on the realm of the king and of his sons? You are also to know that you have no authority to impose taxes, tribute, or duty on any of the priests, Levites, musicians, gatekeepers, temple servants, or other workers at this house of God. Good night. And you, Ezra, in accordance with the wisdom of your God, which you possess, appoint magistrates and judges to administer justice to all the people of Trans-Euphrates, all who know the laws of your God, and you are to teach any who do not know them. Whoever does not obey the law of your God and the law of the king must surely be punished by death, banishment, confiscation of property, or imprisonment. Woo-hoo. Hey, look, you got the law, right? You need to appoint good judges and everything, but the hammer is real. And you can see the clutches of the governments at work here. Death, banishment, confiscation of property, imprisonment. But at the same time, tax-free. Tax-free. Praise be to the Lord, the God of our ancestors, who has put it into the king's heart to bring honor to the house of the Lord in Jerusalem in this way, and who has extended his good favor to me before the king and his advisors and all the king's powerful officials. Because of the hand of the Lord my God was on me, I took courage and gathered leaders from Israel to go up with me. That's Ezra talking at that point. But the letter before that, that's all from the king. Nernath saying, as my ombudsman, the official ombudsman, brackets official and brackets of ombudsman of the show, most likely a regional governor under the Persian king, maybe a defector from Babylon. Are you talking about Artaxerxes or are you talking about Darius? Must have been a proto-Italian. Lots of olive oil. When the olive oil and baths of wine are just right. So this is what we see, right? He's got a letter. Because look, it talks about Artaxerxes, king of kings. So Artaxerxes would be the kind of the emperor, the king over the empire, and Darius would be the regional governor, right, Nernath? Oh, here we go. Sorry about that, Nernath. I missed it. Darius is a hard historical figure to identify. He is one of those characters that people try to use to debunk the Bible. They said the same thing about the Hittites, though. The Hittites are very well documented, though. No, I missed a couple of chats. Sorry about that. Veritex, I was thinking of it like David Barton. Ezra may have Ezra may have the law memorized, but it likely came with scrolls of it to declare God's law, kind of like David Barton reminding us of American history. Okay, I'm not very familiar with David Barton. I will take your word for it. But we'll say Ezra took his job very seriously and humbly, it seems. But without fear, because he met a lot of resistance. And there were a lot of folks who did not want the temple in Jerusalem to be rebuilt. They did not want the Hebrews coming back to the promised land. Emmanuel says, Phineas was like, oh, you want to have the big O? I'll give you one that you will learn. Well, other people will learn. Usually when you're put on a stake, it's not for your edification, it's for other people's. Emmanuel. The Hittites were only discovered in the last 12 years. Up until the aughts, they were called a myth, but now we know how huge the empire was. I thought it was well established, like decades ago, not just the 2000s. I thought it was established because I remember reading about the Hittites in public school. We learned about them. I mean, heck, they were a playable empire in Age of Empires. You couldn't play as the Hebrews, which would have been great. Oh, great. Oh, great. So now chapter 8 is going to be like this. Chapter 8 is going to be like this. I'm going to have to do some pronunciations, which I hate doing. So guys, please bear with me on this. It's not going to be pretty. It never is. These are the family heads and those registered with them who came up with me from Babylon during the reign of King Artaxerxes. Of the descendants of Phineas, Gershom. Of the descendants of Ithamar, Daniel. So far, so good. Of the descendants of David, Hattush. Of the descendants of Shechaniah. All right, hanging in there. Of the descendants of Parash, Zechariah, and with him were registered 150 men. Of the descendants of Pahath Moab, Eliahoenai, son of Zerahiah, and with him 200 men. That was tough. Of the descendants of Zatu, Shechaniah, son of Jahaziel, and with him 300 men. Of the descendants of Adin, Ebed, son of Jonathan, and with him 50 men. Of the descendants of Elam, Jeshiah, son of Athaliah, and with him 70 men. Of the descendants of Shephatiah, Zebediah, son of Michael, and with him 80 men. Of the descendants of Joab, Obadiah, son of Jehiel, and with him 218 men. Of the descendants of Bani, Shelomith, son of Josiphiah, and with him 160 men. Of the descendants of Bebai, Zechariah, son of Bebai, and with him 28 men. Of the descendants of Azgad, Johanan, son of Hakatan, and with him 110 men. Of the descendants of Adonikam, the last ones whose names were Eliphalet, Jeuel, and Shemaiah, and with them 60 men. Of the descendants of Bigvai, Uthai, and Zachur, and with them 70 men. All right. That wasn't as bad as it could be. Could be off. Big thing that people doubted for centuries, though. Okay, I'll go with that. Maybe that might be a really good Friday stream. The Hittites. Nernaeth, if you can DM me or put in the Discord chat any place for me to get started talking about that, we'll do a Friday show next week on that. I'd love to kind of dive into that and get people's thoughts on it. I can confirm no lawyer in history has ever memorized it all. What would have the legendary Hebrew unit been? Oh, Joshua. Samson. There's a few. That would have been, or the Ark of the Covenant, the Angel of the Lord, which is hilarious because the relics in the first Age of Empires basically look like the Ark of the Covenant, like little arks. But there's no Israelites in Age of Empires, unfortunately. All right. Last segment. Return to Jerusalem. I assembled them at the canal that flows towards Ahava, and we camped there 3 days. When I checked among the people and the priests, I found no Levites there. So I summoned Eleazar, Ariel, Shemaiah, Elnathan, Jarib, Elnathan, Nathan, Zechariah, and Meshullam, who were leaders, and Joirib and Elnathan. How many Elnathans are there? 1, 2, and 3. It's really messing with me. And a Nathan in there. So 3 Elnathans and a Nathan, who were men of learning. Joirib and Elnathan, who were men of learning. And I ordered them to go to Iddo, the leader in Casiphia. I'm told them what to say to Iddo and his fellow Levites, the temple servants in Casiphia, so that they might bring attendance to us for the house of our God. Because the gracious hand of our God was on us, they brought us Sherebiah, a capable man from the descendants of Mali, son of Levi, the son of Israel, and Sherebiah's sons and brothers, 18 in all, and Hashabiah, together with Jeshiah, from the descendants of Merari, and his brothers and nephews, 20 in all. They also brought 220 of the temple servants, a body that David and the officials had established to assist the Levites. All were registered by name. Whew. All right, I've done it all right. I'm pretty proud of myself, right? I'm having some pride issues here with how I'm handling this these names. There, by the Ahava Canal, I proclaimed a fast so that we might humble ourselves before our God and ask him for a safe journey for us and our children with all our possessions. I was ashamed to ask the king for soldiers and horsemen to protect us from enemies on the road, because we had told the king, the gracious hand of our God is on everyone who looks to him, but his great anger is against all who forsake him. So we fasted and petitioned our God about this, and he answered our prayer. Okay, backing up, kind of reread this for a bit. So it sounds like, look, we didn't have some of the clergy that we needed, so we were kind of trying to bring that together. And so now that we've got the little this administrative group of clergy, now we're heading off. But before we did that, we needed to have a fast, and he didn't want to ask for protection from the king with soldiers, like physical protection, because he told the king, look, God's going to protect it. Who can protect you more than God, right? I mean, this is what we see with Elijah or Elisha, the prophets that call down fire, like what John Smoth is talking about. Prophets, they They're having the prophets that call down fire. You know, if your God isn't willing to do anything for you, what is he? Is he there? Is he? What good is he? Now, we know from previous examples that when you put your faith in God in that level, he has protected them. He has delivered them countless times in battles and other things. Put your faith in him. This is all the work of God's will, right? This is all being done because he is putting these actions, or putting these events into action. So he's not just going to let you die. So we fasted and petitioned our God about this, and he answered our prayer. Then I set apart 12 of the leading priests, namely Sherebiah, Hashabiah, and 10 of their brothers. And I'm so glad he shortened that up. And I weighed out to them the offering of silver and gold and the articles that the king, his advisors, his officials, and all Israel present there had donated for the house of our God. I weighed them out to 650 talents of silver, silver articles weighing 100 talents, 100 talents of gold, 20 bowls of gold value at 1,000 derricks, and 2 fine articles of polished bronze as precious as gold. So 24 tons of silver, 3 3/4 tons of silver articles. Same thing of the gold, 20 gold bowls of gold value at 1,000 derricks. Looks like that's 19 pounds of gold. I said to them, you as well as these articles are consecrated to the Lord. The silver and gold are a free will offering to the Lord, the God of your ancestors. Guard them carefully until you weigh them out in the chambers of the house of the Lord in Jerusalem before the leading priests and the Levites and the family heads of Israel. Then the priests and Levites received the silver and gold and sacred articles that had been weighed out to be taken to the house of our God in Jerusalem. Okay, so he's guiding him. He's looking pretty well. He's looking pretty well. He looks like he's doing a pretty good job, kind of not just leading these folks, but educating these folks as well. Remember, the Israelites in Judah and Israel, by the time they get sent into exile, seem to have completely forgotten what they were supposed to be doing. And it doesn't seem like the laws of Moses were communicated and passed down the way they were supposed to be. Hence why Josiah, when he's king, is like, what is this? What is this book of Moses with all these things that we were supposed to be doing? And what are all these warnings that if we don't do them, we are doomed? There you go. Memoir, the covenant, Ark of the Covenant for sure. Yes. I would love to know the word origin of their measurement talents. Sometimes, because I always wondered if these people were just good at hoarding silver. You mean they're talented at hoarding silver? Or maybe that's where the word talent came from, like the way we know talent now. You're good at it. You're good as gold. That would be interesting. I said to them, you as well as these. Oh, I already read that part. On the 12th day of the first month, we set out from the Ahava Canal to go to Jerusalem. The hand of our God was on us, and he protected us from enemies and bandits along the way. They had plenty of enemies, and they had a lot of very valuable goods. So bandits were going to be eyeballing that. So we arrived in Jerusalem, where we rested 3 days. On the 4th day, in the house of our God, we weighed out the silver and gold and the sacred articles into the hands of Meremoth, son of Uriah, the priest. Eleazar, son of Phinehas, was with him, and so were the Levites, Jozabad, son of Jeshua, and Noadiah, son of Binui. Everything was accounted for by number and weight, and the entire weight was recorded at the time. Yes, thank you. Thank you, MR. Doing all right. Then the exiles who had returned from captivity sacrificed burnt offerings to the Lord of Israel. 12 bulls. That smells good. 12 bulls for all Israel, 96 rams, 77 male lambs, and as a sin offering, 12 male goats. That's a lot of euros, guys. All this was a burnt offering to the Lord. They also delivered the king's orders to the royal satraps and to the governors of Trans-Euphrates, who then gave assistance to the people and to the house of God. So they get back. They all right. So they get up all this stuff. Lots, very valuable. We're talking about tons of gold and silver, tons of it, along with other stuff. And they're going to transport it from where they're at in Babylon to Jerusalem. Nothing happens to them along the way. Completely eventless trip. Pretty impressive. And so they get there, they rest for a few days from their long traveling, and then the fourth day they start getting to work. And then, as the exiles return, here comes the sin offering barbecue. And there we go. So they're there. So we got two more chapters, and we'll finish up Ezra tomorrow night. We won't have a show Thursday night. Friday night we'll be talking about other things. And so Monday night, no show because that'll be the playoff. That'll be a long playoff tournament that I'll be in for softball. So Tuesday we'll start with Nehemiah and we'll get a little bit more explanation of all the things that go on. I think Nehemiah is a much more interesting and easier to follow discussion of what's going on here, because it's not just Ezra, it's Ezra and Nehemiah, but we don't hear Nehemiah mentioned at all so far. And I don't know if he's mentioned in here at all. But Nehemiah is based. So there we go. All right. With that said, guys, I am slowly rehydrating myself, and I am going to get some rest. I've got a long day tomorrow, long day of tomorrow. And so we are going to close this out at almost exactly an hour, because I'm sure after I'm finished closing this out, it'll be right there at the measurement. So guys, thank you guys for tuning in. MR, Veritax, John Smoth, Nernaeth, Emmanuel Osorio, Sean Bird, Nico, you weren't very active in the chat tonight. Hope you're. I mean, here's the thing, Nico, and I know that. Look, I'm not trying to keep you and say that you are required to be here. But one of the things that I really love about your commentary is almost all the time you are hearing this stuff for the first time. So I love getting your reactions. Right when I get Veritax and Nernaeth are very similar. We were talking where I'm hearing a lot of kind of analysis from people who have been around the word for a while. And that's great too, because a lot of times it keeps me from going too far off the rails. But Nico, what you offer, and I've talked about it a lot, and I'm sure I've mentioned this several times before. Nico, what you offer is kind of the control. So the guy walking in who hasn't heard this is what about X? I get so many good questions from you. So please do not shy away from chatting. Oh, they've just been listening. I'm catching up with stuff more than anything for now. I know that, and I know you're busy too. But just so you know, I specifically enjoy when you have questions, asking them and trying to, because a lot of times it makes me stop and pull back and think of it from the kind of not the outsider perspective, but kind of the newcomer perspective. And that's not a place that I've ever been in. I grew up, like I said, I've been in Christianity all my life. I've always gone to church without, I've always been a believer. When I was a kid, I was always going to church. I was always in these circles. And while, maybe uh, some of my youth education had some holes in it on the expectations on how we should behave, what happened in the Bible was often discussed. So it's also always great getting you. And finally, Alias, who was first in the chat. So, Alias, how's it going, sir? So for all you guys, thank you. Thank you for chatting. You make this show better. Can't stress this enough. Can't stress it enough. Make the show better. Do a great job, and you give me time. You give me good places to kind of sidebar and explain things and go off on other tangents to add more content than I would if I'm just kind of reading it to myself. Like I said, this show got better the more people started watching it. And now that we're like at a half dozen to a dozen a night, it really works well. So I'm glad to see that. To everybody who is not commenting in the chat, that's fine. I don't mind that. I'm just glad that you are getting out of this stream something that you enjoy, something that you continue to come back to, and that's fulfilling you at least in some good way. To everybody catching this stream on the back end, hope to catch you live at some point. By all means, leave a comment with your thoughts. Helps the channel. The more interaction I get from you guys outside of just what we're talking about here, the more interaction, the more that YouTube is designed, I guess, to help this channel grow. And that's what I want. That's what I want. But what I want more than everything for you guys to be well. And hopefully I will see you guys tomorrow night when we come back to conclude Ezra. And you guys be safe out there. Have a very good night, and God bless.